guys, welcome back to the channel. Picking up right where we left off. I just knocked out a hot retorque. This is the final one for the 07. We got to throw the front bumper on, put it back together, just kind of go over some stuff, make sure we're good. The test drives went great. Everything was good. You guys heard in that last video that popping noise. That's actually a hard limiter. Huge thank you to you-know-who for showing me that trick. Now we can do those pops and bangs that I've wanted to do for a long time. And the whole spirit of this build was kind of just to go back to our old hood rat stuff, where you have a truck that makes decent power, but you can literally beat the living hell out of it and not worry about it. So in this one, we're just gonna kind of go through it all. I'm not sure if our dyno works yet or not, but if it does, we'll do that. We're definitely gonna get the nitrous system kind of wired in, and I'm gonna show you guys how to drive with a full manual valve body. Okay, so we got our lash done, got the whole truck put back together. You guys saw me there. I always check my manifold studs, manifold bolts, whatever you got. I always check them after the first drive, you know, because sometimes they wiggle themselves loose. Get a good heat cycle in there, check your downpipe, all that stuff. So now I'm gonna finish the last three underneath and get this front bumper thrown on here. Dang, she looking snazzy. I gotta hook up the fog lights. We are ready to go. Oil pressure gauge is still plumbed in for the immediate future, just to make sure we are not having any problems, but ready to go. We're gonna have to deal with that hood stack hole, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Well, y'all want a boost check. Overdrive 2000. So anyway, We wanted to check the lash on number 4. It was really loose last night. I think what happened was I actually set it on I used the 20 thousandths feeler gauge on the intake, because after beating on it for about 16 miles, it hasn't loosened up. We also had developed a slight oil leak. And remember, guys, I told you about this rocker box gasket. And no one in this world is perfect, what I found. You guys can see here, see how it's kind of rolled? So it wasn't square. When I set it down, it pulled, and then it has flat spotted this back spot here. So we had a little oil leak there, no big deal. That is why I do not replace this rocker box gasket until after all the hot retorques are done. That way, unless you're me, you shouldn't be in there all too often, and it'll give you a good gasket. The other thing Shad's working on is a block heater after Meyer decided to shorten ours in the form of removing the plug. And lastly, we're gonna take this oil pressure gauge off because we are good now. We're about 24 miles in. I wanna say I've hit the limiter 6 times so far, that sweet freaking hard limiter. So I'm not that worried about it. And I know a lot of people were asking how much we have in this. My wife watches the channel, so about $500 is all we have in this engine here. So, yeah. No, it's not that hard to figure it out, guys. Go to like, this is very similar to like a Freedom Street Stage 2 that like Greg A runs. This is very similar to like a D&J Street 6.7, Street Performance 6.7. If you look in those price tags right there, you can kind of figure it out for yourself. All jokes aside, though, I am very lucky to have a wife that lets me spend this much money and time on these trucks. It definitely is a huge passion of mine. So we're going to get this all buttoned up, and then Shad's going to come along for a cruise, which means you guys might get some better footage. So,
I think we made a quick trip to Mexico.
yeah, that was a very quick ride. So this was Shad's first ride in the whip. What'd you think?
She's pretty rowdy. She's fun.
Yeah, dude, that limiter though.
That limiter is
So
like...
all the video footage from that ride, credit to him. The one where you were seeing all the front wheeling going on, that was when I almost hit a curb. It's weird, Mexico has curbs. And then obviously the parking lot burnout was in the parking lot. The other one was in the entryway to the parking lot. So again, guys, I don't condone doing this on the streets because it's just bad for business, you know. But this thing freaking, pardon my French, but I'm going to say it. This thing just shits and gets. And I tell you what, it does turn all that hopping and popping into skeeting and yeeting. God dang.
Speeds.
It's got here, there, and gone. But no, for a 476, honestly, the tune-up we got in it is probably somewhere around, I don't know, I'd say 800 horse, maybe. Not anything too crazy. It does do a rolling burnout a little bit. The turbo, I got to get used to driving such a small S400 again because it's not ready to shift when I want it to shift. So all in all, good first ride. All right, we're gonna cut this oil filter open. It's got about 50 miles on it. Quite a few limiter pulls, as you guys have heard. And this is a Stratofor oil filter. Just guys move over a little bit. So these have a magnet, no, sorry, a spring in here. I always kind of like do the residual in here. There's a little metal in there, which is normal. You'd expect to see a little bit of metal. Then you're looking at all the pleats of the filter. Keep in mind, this is the break-in one, so it's not uncommon to see chunks. You just don't want to see a lot of chunks. All the bearings, bushings, anything you missed when you were cleaning the block shows up in here. I just check each filter one by one, or pleat rather. So you're kind of just spreading them, looking in a good light. Honestly, everything I see here looks pretty good. So yeah, happy with it. We'll put a new filter on, put new oil in it, and keep on rocking. I'm not sure how most of you guys go on road trips, but with Maya and I going down to Cali, let's get this thrown in the toolbox. You ready for the road trip, Maya?
No. I'm not used to this much spice. I drive a stock 4th gen. This is too much.
So Maya and I decided we're gonna take the 2007 instead of the 21, and I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, oh, what a reliable daily. We got tools, which honestly my wife's car is leaking a little coolant. We got a spare valve body.
That's because of the builder. Okay.
Yeah. We got filters, fluid. We got more tools in the back, and then the pit scooters for my boy. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and we about to roll out. We're at our halfway point, and just a little trans leakage that Meyer is looking at. And we just did our first fill up. We sat in about an hour of traffic. Now, you'll have to trust me on this one, okay? But from where we started to this spot right here is about 170 miles. And we took exactly 10 gallons of fuel, so we call that 17 miles a gallon. Not terrible for a bunch of traffic. And yeah, I'll take it. So far so good. We'll get this tranny leak taken care of and move on. Let me fill you in. Meyer and I got to that gas station in Vegas. We had an 8-inch puddle under the truck coming from the tranny. Him and I both looked at each other like, dude, this would suck to have to swap. We were worried about the pump seal. We were worried about running out of fluid and starving it. So we turned around and came back to Utah. Dropped this truck off. It stopped leaking. Wasn't low on fluid, just stopped leaking. So we're like, whatever, oh well. It had this really weird 2-3 bind, and basically what's happening is the second gear band wasn't coming off before the third gear clutch came on, but it didn't matter. Fluid temp didn't matter. Line pressure, it was like it had a 1-second delay. So we're pretty sure we destroyed this second gear band, but the 1-2 shift timing was fine, which is really weird. But we're gonna go ahead, pull this tranny out, put the spare in so we can verify the spare works good, and then tear this one down. Meyer thinks maybe a check ball in the valve body or something, or one of the shift valves is getting caught. But you could get it to shift normally if you went 1-2 and then 2 neutral third, and it worked just fine. So and it just started. So we're definitely not thinking it was like an adjustment problem. We're thinking something wigged out in the valve body, some debris or something. So we're gonna go ahead, get this truck pulled into the shop and get this tranny out and put our built spare in. Since so many of you guys had an opinion about cold starts, now this is our street 6.7. It is about 28 degrees outside. Sat all weekend. I'm gonna go with not bad. A little stumble there. I think I have to work on the tuning a little bit, but not bad. Let's get it to the shop. And here you guys can kind of see, here's two. Two's fine, right? Lock it, and then we'll do third. The truck kind of lugs down for a second. It's got this weird bind, so that's what we're hoping is a valve body problem. So we are under the truck. You guys can kind of see here the red fluid in the bell housing, and it has gotten all over the pan, control arms, the transmission cross member. Luckily the tranny's pretty much spared, but the exhaust got hit pretty good. This is like dripping off. The drive shaft's quite moist, as well as the rear end. Luckily though, it didn't get too much on the transmission, or sorry, the hitch, and not really any on the bumper or the tailgate. So again, it was one of those things. We made it back with the 21 safe and sound. Maybe it was for the best, but yeah, quite the mess we got here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the fluid draining, then get this tranny pulled. They go pretty quick, even by yourself. So you guys can see fluid's pretty red, but I'm pretty sure I found our second gear band. It's seems to be all right there. So not exactly what you want to see, but we're gonna collect this fluid. That way, if Meyer needs to look at it, it is ready for him. So let's get this pulled out. Something that I want to hit on, because I'll probably forget when we go to put this back together. So all the torque converter bolts are out, and this is fully seated. You guys see how this converter spins by hand? That's how you know that it's fully seated, because if it wasn't, this would be all bound up in here and wouldn't spin freely. So when we tell you guys, when you stop these, the converter should spin by hand with the transmission fully seated to the adapter plate. That's what we mean. Oil's drained. All 6 of our converter bolts are out. Let's go ahead and rip this thing out. The lighting was horrible. I don't have anybody to film with. Like I said, we're doing this one Han Solo tonight. So here she is. This was the main case. This was the 05's overdrive case. Once we cracked this one, and she's out. Nothing too bad here. Get the converter slid off, and then basically just swap everything over. One thing I did notice, we'll have to swap pans, because this pan has the cuts in it for the shifter. But other than that, unbolt the T case, a few other things, and we'll be ready to swap over. Shouldn't take too long. One thing I am gonna do, given the quality of the fluid that came out, is blow out my transmission lines. To do so, you're gonna push air into one and have something ready to catch on the other, which I'm trying to find the other. Oh, the other one's right there. So again, a bunch of brake clean, blow it through, bunch of brake clean, blow it through. And I'm gonna try and figure out, I thought maybe it was a rear main with how dark the color was, but after looking at all this, does not appear to be a rear main. Very clean back here. Generally, if it's a rear main, there'll just be oil everywhere, but I still am going to check and make sure that this is straight. Again, I checked it, but you know, one of these things, pump seals generally go out for very few things. Meyer's wondering if when we had this disconnected, the weight of the converter sitting on, you guys can kind of see how it's sitting a little crooked. We're wondering if that was enough, or if it's just been done. This converter seal or pump seal, pump bushing has been in this truck since we built it a year ago, and we have swapped 1 torque converter, 2 torque converters. But bottom line is, it's seen a lot more than normal. So we're gonna go ahead. I find it easier to clean up the converter with it sitting like this. So I'm gonna just go ahead and wire wheel off the Loctite, clean out all these bolt holes, and she'll be ready to go. I know it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but use 0 dial indicator. And I'm gonna try and stand out of the way enough. Hopefully you guys can see. We're about 5 thousandths out around, which is within tolerance. So we took some emery cloth, cleaned up the snout, and now we just got to get the T-case off. Now normally with 2 people, I take the transfer case off and we just hold it, set it down. But since it's just me today, I'm gonna go ahead and get the pump cart table out over here and basically use the pump cart table here, bring it up, meet the transfer case. That way I'm not sitting there carrying it. Only thing you gotta do is take this bracket off here, and then we're ready to put this transmission on the bench and put the new one next to it, swap a couple things over, and in she goes. So we're swapping the pan over. Yeah, that second gear band's about done, son. So you guys kind of look here, see how it's kind of like a grayish black or more brown. This is what second gear band debris looks like. There might be a little GPZ from the couple times that the third gear band third gear drum might have beat it for a second. But yeah, second gear band, low reverse band looks okay. And again, here's that, like, I shouldn't be able to get my finger in there, so it just, she done. So we'll get the pan cleaned out. Kind of just leave this here. Meyer is gonna tear it down and check the valve body, and then I'll probably just slip a new band in it, maybe replace a couple clutches. But it does appear that the second gear band lost on the 2-3 bind. Again, the third gear, let's see here, we got any drums laying out? Oh, yes. So this is your track drum, third gear drum. Okay. So this has the clutches in it, right? There's a piston that applies against a reaction plate and a snap ring. The second gear band grabs onto here. So this clutch pack, if there's a bind here where this hasn't come off before this applies, or this applies too early, this comes off too late, however you want to word it, the clutch pack is going to win against that band. It's kind of just the way it rolls. So we're gonna go ahead, get the pan swapped, and get this thing ready to go back in the truck. Okay, once the tranny has the 2 alignment dowel bolt holes, you guys can see it's kind of like right there. Then you got those other 3, that one down there, those 2. So you get the 2 on each side, and then I switch over to doing the torque converter to flex blade bolts. And the reason why I do that, that way they have the longest to dry before you fire it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock those out. Red Loctite impact, let's go. So we skipped the eating of the pizza because you know what? You guys are really, really harsh on me, all right? But converter bolts are in. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw it all together. Again, guys, it's really dark. It's like midnight already. I'm trying to get this done tonight. So I'm gonna just go ahead, put all this back together, and then kind of show you guys the finished product once we get the fluid in it. And I'm gonna go over that as well. We get enough new people every time. I feel like it's good to hit on. So I will show you guys how to add fluid. Full disclosure, this is Meyer's way that he taught me after several errors. So let's get to it. Tranny is fully installed, cross member, sensors, hopefully all our lines and everything. I always double check the drain plug on the pan. I don't know why, but I've had that happen. So now it's time to get her off the lift and get her filled up. Okay, so we're filling the tranny, and this is a deep pan, sorry, double deep. And since the converter's reused, I'm gonna at least say there's 1 quart in the converter. So we wanna get to 14. So we're gonna do 13 quarts down here. Remember, we got that 1 inside the converter. And then we're gonna go ahead and start the truck for about 8 seconds. From there, we're gonna shut the truck back off. We're gonna go ahead and get it up to about probably 17 quarts. And then from there, we can check it. Again, it really depends. I found that this cooling system holds about 1 quart, and I have an auxiliary trans cooler in the back, and I have the factory one in the front. I do not have a heat exchanger. Generally, a lot of guys will overfill because they want to put it all in while it's dry. But you got to remember, the valve body holds some, the converter holds some, the cooler lines hold some. And when you're starting with a fresh system, all it does is go into the pan. This all drains into the pan. And once you start the truck and let it run for 8 seconds, that gives you just enough time for the transmission oil pump to circulate enough fluid to pull the pan level down to where you can put more in. And then you can go ahead and finish filling it. I always like to have it just, I don't know, about halfway between min and max when the fluid's really cold, like halfway, 2/3, because then once this fluid gets hot, it does expand. You're supposed to check transmission fluid at operating temperature, and that prevents it from spilling. If it does spill, chances are it's going to come right out the bell housing area, right where this one was leaking actually, and chances are you overfilled it. The really scary part is if you overfill it before you start it, and then guys assume that it's full, and it's really not. It's actually about 4 quarts low, and then they go drive it, and then they're wondering why their brand new transmission doesn't have all the gears after a few miles. So again, checking transmission fluid, as somebody who has been doing this for quite a while, I've made this mistake. It cost me a torque converter. It's also cost me, I think, a forward clutch. I'm pretty sure I burned up because of not paying attention. So this is something that Meyer showed me, and it's something that I do all the time now. I put 14 in, start the truck for 8 seconds. I put another 3 in, that puts you at 17. With a double deep pan and a pan spacer, 17 is enough for it to operate correctly without having any issues as far as cavitating. And the problem is when you cavitate this transmission pump, it's the same as almost any gear rotor style pump. It starts to eat itself, and then all of a sudden you have no pump. If you have a 48 RE transmission, these transmission pumps are extremely expensive. And I don't know if they're getting hard to find used, but I'm definitely having a hard time right now, at least with the part shortage, of getting new pumps. I can get 47 pumps all day long. 47 pumps aren't terrible, but if you have a big power truck like this one, or Myers, or my race truck, or Todd's truck, or any of those, you're gonna want that added flow of a 48. In my mind, anything 1,000 horsepower and below, I feel like a 47 pump can do just fine. Anything above 1,000, I feel like you definitely need a 48 pump. And if you have a 47 RH or 47 RE, you can put a 48 pump in. It's a straight swap. Now that I've rambled on for probably far too long, this is number 13 here. So I'm gonna go ahead, start the truck, and I'll kind of show you guys what that looks like. Now with any shifter, anything like that, I always put my foot on the brake because you never know where this one's gonna be at. And we're gonna have to adjust that park neutral safety switch. No big deal. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 1,000, 5 1,000. First thing I do, I look underneath. Does not appear to have any leaks. So now I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna shoot 3 more down this chute, start the truck up, cycle it through all its gears, and then put it in neutral and start checking fluid. Okay, so I dumped that 3 quarts in. We're in neutral. Start the truck. I'm gonna go ahead. We got reverse, and then I have a line pressure gauge right down here. So we got first 150, second 180, third 180, overdrive 180. So we have good line pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in neutral, set the parking brake, and now I'm gonna go check fluid. Okay, now that we got our fluid good, truck moved out of the shop, I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This kind of really went everywhere, from hooning around to causing the, I don't even know. I'll keep you, in the next video, we'll show you guys what happened with the tranny. the damage, stuff like that. But we got a spare. This is why we have a spare. So we could just put it in a night, and now Meyer can fix that one at his leisure, which will be nice. Everything looked good. Line pressure looked good. No leaks yet. It's a good sign. And yeah, just goes to show you can go from hood rat to trying to road trip to having tranny leaks to coming back, taking the 21. Thank goodness we have that truck. And then we got this one fixed. I got back from California, I don't know, about 5 hours ago. Wrapped this up. So not a huge job to do by yourself. I will admit it's nice having Shad and Meyer, but it can be done. Just takes a little longer, especially moving the trannies around. But yeah, hopefully you guys like this video. Give it a big thumbs up. Drop a comment down below. And as always, guys, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.